Hello, and welcome to Jill Sand Consulting, your wellness text. We are inspired today. So go ahead, and before we talk about our authentic self, you might decide that you want to bring in your essential oils, or you might want to bring in your crystals and gemstones that you work with, those that calm you, or those that help lift your vibration, or those that help you just feel like you're in your truth. So bring in those tools that you use to be true to yourself, because that's what we're talking about, our authentic self. And so let's think about our authentic self. Who is that? That's the big question, and we've been asking ourselves that maybe for years now. So the answer resides deep within our hearts, into our past. So we have to go dig really deep into our memories to a time when we were a child and where we found ourselves so happy before, let's say, the rose-colored glasses came off, right? When we were in that element of always trusting and loving and being filled with joy over the slightest little thing. That was a time when we were authentic. That was our authentic self. Now, over the years, that little child got buried under some worries. Maybe it was about getting good grades, and maybe it was about keeping our room clean, and maybe it was about not living up to the standards of our parents, and maybe it was about not keeping up with our older siblings. And these layers keep covering up that little child, that innocent child who had such joy for life and such trust for everything in the universe. And so they keep piling up. And so we have to go back and start to unravel those things. We have to take those layers off to find that little child again. So it's the memory. We go to a memory of a time when we were truly in our bliss. So maybe it was a birthday party, or maybe it was a family vacation. But just see if you can come up with one memory of your time as a child that made you feel extreme bliss and happiness and joy. When you find that memory, when you can come up with one memory of that time, that's the thought we're going to work with today. So that little child, think about that little child. Pretend like you are the parent of that little child. What would you do for that little child to keep them in that state of bliss and joy? What are the experiences that you would give that child? What are the experiences that you would take away from that child? For instance, siblings teasing, or maybe struggling at school. Those kinds of things are influenced on when we move away from our authentic self. So what are the experiences that you would bring to fulfill that child? What are the experiences that you would take away? So just take a moment to think about that as the parent of your inner child. And then think, how can we do those things to who we are today? What are some things we can do to ourselves today to keep that joy and enthusiasm, to remember it? How many of you are influenced by what other people think and say? A lot of us are. It really is challenging. Today's world can be very critical. But what if, in childlike innocence, we decided to disregard all those messages and just find ourselves in that place of bliss and offer ourselves those experiences that we as a parent would have provided to ourselves when we were that beautiful, joyful child? What are some experiences we can do for ourselves? Is it taking off a half day of work and just going and sitting in a park? Is it taking ourselves on a vacation, which we've always said, oh, I can't afford it, but we know there's money in the bank that we can afford it? Is it about finding that person in your life who is such a great friend and you just kind of got disconnected because of social status or grades in school or career options later on? So finding that person who reminds you who your authentic self is. So what is it that we can do today to be authentic? What are the experiences we need to take away? As that parent, what would we have taken away from that child? Was there pressure on us? As a parent, did we recognize the pressures that were put on us as a child? How can we recognize those pressures today and take them away? Can you think of a way that you can release one pressure today that you have on yourself? Maybe it's the expectation of a sibling or a co-worker or parent or a child. Maybe today we're just going to say, you know what? They felt that way about me for a long time and it always has bothered me. But today I'm going to think about it in a new way and I'm going to look at it as being their issue, not mine. I'm going to be me, and if they have a problem with that, then that's their issue, not mine. So allowing to release that expectation is a way that we can find ourselves coming back into our authentic self. What is a way that you can bring yourself back into your authentic self? That's the question. What's the answer? Completing my practice with you today. Namaste.